I supported my family for a year thinking it was my duty until I found out they secretly used my money for a vacation. My name is Lucas. I'm 27, and until last week, I thought I was a decent son. Possibly even too good. I was always the one to step up when my folks needed something. Was your rent too high? I covered it. Did your car break down? I paid for the repairs. My younger siblings required assistance with tuition. Guess who pitched in? I never complained because it was my family. Isn't it what you should do for your family? But this week, I discovered something about my parents that I can't forget. And now I doubt I'll ever look at them the same way again. It began a little more than a year ago. My parents were struggling, bills were piling up, their mortgage was falling behind, and their utilities were about to be switched off. My father had a decent job, but my mother had not worked in years, and they were bad with money. Every couple of months, there was an emergency. A broken water heater, an unforeseen medical bill, or anything. And each time, they looked at me. Initially, I didn't mind. I make a good living, I work in technology. And, while I don't make millions, I do well enough. I spent up watching my parents continuously stress about money, so why wouldn't I help make their life easier? Then assistance became an expectation. It wasn't, Lucas, we're in a bad spot. Is there anything you could do this month to help? It became, Lucas, our rent is due next week. Just pay the money to mom's account like last time. There is no discussion. There was no asking. It's just a demand. As if I were their personal ATM. At first, I dismissed it. They were my parents after all. I figured if this was what it took to save them from losing their home, then so be it. But it eventually ate away at me. The entitlement. A lack of thankfulness. My younger siblings, both in their early 20s and still living at home, never seemed to give a penny. My brother was always out with pals. Always dressed in new clothes. My sister had an intricate skincare routine that could easily cost hundreds of dollars. Despite this, I was responsible for keeping the roof over everyone's heads. I began setting boundaries. However, they did not take it well. I once told my father that I could only pay half of the rent that month. He became angry. Not disappointed. Not stressed. Angry. He complained about how I owed them for raising me. How parents gave their everything for their children, and now that I had money, it was my turn to pay back. That argument stayed with me. But, like a fool, I sent the entire money. Then last week occurred. I was texting my sister, just having a casual discussion, when she mentioned the resort. When I asked her what she meant, she became strangely quiet. A minute later, she texted, "Wait. You don't know?" "No, what?" I responded. She did not respond after that. But something seemed odd. I called my mother. She did not pick up. I called my father and went straight to voicemail. I called my brother, nothing. Finally, I texted my sister. "What are you talking about? Where is everybody?" That's when she sent me the photograph. It was my parents, brother, and sister reclining beside a pool at a fancy resort. The kind of location you see in travel ads, complete with pristine beaches and exclusive cabanas. Drinks in hand. Sunglasses on. Everyone smiles. I was staring at my screen for a long time. I went back through my messages with my mother. She told me just 3 days ago that they were suffering with expenses again, that money was tight, and that they might not be able to pay their rent this month. And yet, there they were. On vacation. Without me. I felt, I'm not even sure what the word is. Betrayed? Stupid? Furious? I waited several hours before calling my mother again. This time she picked up. She sounded annoyed, as if I was causing her inconvenience. "Lucas, I can't speak right now. We're having dinner," she continued, laughing in the background. I held my voice steady. "Where are you?" Silence. Then, "What do you mean?" "I mean, where are you? Because, from what I can gather, you're not at home trying to pay your bills. You are at a resort, which I suppose you purchased for with the money I sent you." A prolonged pause. Then she sighed, like if I were a child having a tantrum. "Lucas, we needed this trip. We've been very stressed. You don't comprehend what it's like to keep this family together." I nearly laughed. "Holding it together? You mean I'm holding it together? I pay your rent. I pay your bills. And you didn't believe I'd find out?" Her tone quickly shifted. "Don't be theatrical, Lucas. It was merely a little trip. How about a brief getaway? Mom, this is an all-inclusive resort. You said you couldn't afford rent this month." Then she spoke the words that altered everything. "You would have ruined the mood." I sat there, squeezing my phone so firmly that my fingers ached. Excuse me? I spoke quietly. She huffed. You've been quite pessimistic recently. Always making a fuss over money. We did not want to deal with that energy. We needed this to relax. I was speechless. Then she said, as if to ease the shock. Look, I'll make things up to you, okay? Maybe next year we'll bring you along. But this trip, this one was only for us. For a long time, I said nothing. Then I hung up. And I began to plot. If they thought they could take advantage of me forever, they were mistaken. I did not answer any of my mother's follow-up texts that night. Not the half-hearted "don't be mad," or the guilt-inducing "after everything we've done for you." I just left them there, unread. While staring at my ceiling, I remembered every time I bailed them out. I covered every overdraft fee. Every last-minute emergency I rescued them from. Every time, I tell myself, it's only money. They are family. But it wasn't all money. It was all about respect. They had none for me. The next morning, I awoke to over a dozen missed calls from my folks. My father had finally joined in. His texts were angrier, short, accusing me of overreacting, and ordering me to grow up. My mother's were softer, attempting to smooth things up. Neither one of them apologized. I took my time getting out of bed, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table, scrolling through their messages as if they were from strangers. In that moment, something in me changed. I was finished. I was not going to argue. I was not going to seek an explanation. They knew what they were doing, and they were not sorry. The only thing left to do was ensure that they never took advantage of me again. Step 1 was simple. I cut them off. Not dramatically. There was no major confrontation, no screams. I just entered into my banking app and canceled the automatic transfer I had set up to send them money every month. Then I blocked them. Not forever. Only long enough for them to feel it. I knew how this was going to go. The rent was due in 1 week. They had spent my money on their little luxury holiday, so they had nothing left to cover their genuine expenses. And sure enough, 3 days later, my mother's phone number, blocked but still available in my call logs, went crazy. By the end of the week, she began leaving panicked voicemail messages. Lucas, please. We need to talk. We might lose our house. You cannot do this to your family. Please, honey, call me back. We did not mean to hurt you. Then my father. You are being childish. You are punishing us for nothing. Pick up the phone, Lucas. I ignored each one. Then came my siblings. My sister texted first, saying, Mom and Dad are freaking out. Just talk to them. My brother then said, Dude, you're taking this way too far. Too far? I nearly laughed. They were not concerned about me. They were not sorry for what they did. They were simply panicking because they needed money. And I had no intention of assisting them this time. A few additional days passed. Then I received an email. It was from my mother. The subject line simply said, We need to talk. I considered deleting it, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. What I read got me enraged. The email began almost normally, with a bogus reconciliation request. We love you, Lucas. We are sorry you feel this way. Let's talk about it and work it out as a family. But suddenly the tone changed. We did not want to tell you this, but we are in a very poor situation. The rent is due, and we don't have enough to pay it. We never imagined you'd abandon us like this. You are aware that we rely on you, rely on me. Not appreciating me. Not thank you for everything you've done. No, straight up, we expect you to provide for us. The following part made my stomach twist with hatred. Your brother and sister are concerned about you. They say you've changed. That you are acting selfishly. Honestly, we're beginning to agree. You have been distant ever since you moved out, cold. This is not who you are, Lucas. We've raised you better than this. I slammed my laptop closed. That was it. The last nail in the coffin. They weren't sorry. They didn't even acknowledge what they had done. Instead, they were attempting to guilt-trip me into bailing them out again. I paced my flat, fists clenched. It wasn't just the entitlement, it was the outright chutzpah. I'd given them everything. They paid their rent, they paid their debts. And when they had extra money, they didn't use it to alleviate their problems. They did not save it. They went on vacation, without me. Because obviously, I was the problem. I'd have ruined the mood. But now that their little fantasy trip was over and reality was staring them in the face. Suddenly, I was indispensable. I took a big breath, my thoughts whirling. I could ignore the email. I could block them. Move on with my life. But something within me yearned for more than just silence. I wanted them to feel it. I sat back down, cracked my knuckles, and began typing. Mom, Dad. I have read your email. I pondered about what you had stated. You're right, I've changed, and I am finally seeing things clearly. You did not rely on me. You used me. You not only used me, but you also treated me with disrespect. You took my money. She accepted my kindness, and then intentionally cut me out when it suited you. You're now broke. You are afraid now. And now you adore me again? Spare me. I do not owe you anything. I am not your personal ATM. And I'm done being manipulated. Maybe the next time you go on a luxury trip, you should plan for what happens once you return home. Best of luck figuring things out. I lingered over the send button. Then, with the largest sneer on my face, I clicked. My sister texted me 30 minutes later. What did you say to Mom? She is crying. Then, my brother. Dude, you went too far. And eventually, my father. Who had never asked me for anything before. I left a voicemail. His voice was trembling with barely veiled anger. Listen to me, Lucas. If you don't fix this, there will be consequences. I played the message twice. Consequences? I nearly laughed. They still believed they had influence over me. That they could frighten me again into surrender. That was their last error. Because now I wasn't just going away. I was about to make sure they never got a hold of me again. I did not respond to my father's voicemail. Instead, I continued my day as if nothing had happened. But deep inside, I knew it wasn't over. My parents were not the type to let go. They could not bear the thought of losing control over me. So I wasn't surprised to hear a strong, aggressive knock on my flat door the next evening. I took my time walking over, checking through the peephole. Sure enough, there they were. My father stood stiffly, his jaw clenched, as if he was scarcely able to contain his fury. My mother, on the other hand, had her arms crossed and her face set in an expression of forced disappointment, as if I had offended them. I contemplated ignoring them. Allowing them to stand there and stew in their own frustration. But no. I wanted to see it through. I unlocked and opened the door, leaning nonchalantly against the frame. What do you want? I asked simply. My mother's countenance immediately softened into something more sorrowful. Lucas, sweetheart, please, let's just talk. No, I replied, cutting her off. Say whatever you came here to say, then leave. That's when my father stepped forward, his face flushed with hardly restrained wrath. You think you're tough now, right? He snapped. Are you ignoring our calls? Sending us that filthy email? After all we've done for you? I raised an eyebrow. Have you done everything for me? I repeated. Do you mean rearing me? Feeding me as a child? Doing the absolute minimum that every parent is expected to do? My mother let out a theatrical gasp, as if I had slapped her. How could you be so ungrateful? She whispered. I nearly laughed. Ungrateful? I asked. I paid your rent for 1 year. I stored food in your refrigerator. I ensured you didn't wind up on the street, and when you finally had enough money, you went on vacation, without me. Now you're back because you need me to clean up your mess. Neither one of them spoke. That's when I moved aside and pointed to my apartment. Come in, I called. They exchanged a short glance and proceeded warily inside, as if they expected me to scream. I did not. I closed the door, walked over to my counter, and took out a folder. Then I turned and placed it directly in front of them on the coffee table. What is this? My father asked, cautiously. Bank statements, I explained. Every payment I've made for you. Every dollar I sent. I leaned forward and locked eyes with him. Just so we're clear on exactly how much I've done for you. My father hardly looked at it before scoffing. Oh, so you're keeping score? Yes, I replied bluntly. Because I need you to realize this. I owe you nothing. And you're not entitled to my money. My mother tried again, her voice quiet and imploring. Lucas, please. We have nowhere else to go. I felt a glimmer of pity. But then I remembered her words. You would have ruined the mood. I took a cautious breath and met her gaze. Maybe you should have thought about that before you made it clear I wasn't part of this family anymore. My father lost his tolerance. You selfish little brat, he snarled. You sit here in your comfortable apartment, with your steady job, while your family is struggling, and you just cut us off? Yeah, I replied simply. My mother covered her mouth, as if she were ready to cry. My father simply shook his head, his entire body shivering with barely contained wrath. Then, out of nowhere, he stormed forward and pushed the folder off the table. The papers were scattered on the floor. I did not move. I didn't even flinch. He wanted a reaction. I wasn't about to offer him one. Instead, I returned his look with a calm, steady expression. "Are you finished?" I asked. My father gave out a sour laugh. "You're going to regret this," he said, his voice low and menacing. "Mark my words, you will regret this." I tilted my head. "Are you threatening me?" He scoffed, but he did not refute it. I moved forward, my voice frigid. "Get out." My mother's face crumbled. "Lucas, please. Get out." For the first time in my life, my father appeared hesitant, but, after a tense period, he grabbed my mother's arm and yanked her to the door. "You better hope you never need us for anything," he smirked over his shoulder. I just smiled. I never did. And now, I never will. I opened the door for them. They paused, as if they were afraid I'd shatter. As if I could change my mind. But I was just standing there. Silent. Waiting. They finally walked out. I shut the door behind them, locked it, and exhaled slowly. I should have been relieved. But something told me it wasn't over. Not yet. I didn't hear from them for several days. I figured they had received the message. My folks were used to having their way. But they were not foolish. They realized they had pushed me too far this time. I was mistaken. It all began with a single, unexpected message from my sister. The SMS arrived while I was sitting on my couch, looking through some irrelevant content on my phone. "Hey, can we talk?" I rolled my eyes. When it came to our parents, my sister was anything but a calming influence. She was always the one to say, "Oh, they're just stressed," or, "They didn't mean it like that." But deep down, I knew she wouldn't let this go either. I chose to entertain it for now. I promptly responded. "About what?" A few minutes later, her message came back. "About Mom and Dad. They're really upset, Lucas. Can we just talk about it? Please." I sighed, rubbed my eyes, and tossed my phone onto the coffee table. Even thinking about them made me angry. However, for some reason, I found myself typing back. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps there was a warped part of me that desired closure. Perhaps it was just the insanity of the scenario. What do they want now? She did not hesitate. "They've been calling me all day. Dad is on the warpath. He said you humiliated them. That you've crossed a line. Mom's been crying nonstop. They're really sorry, Lucas." I laughed bitterly. "I'm sure they are," I said. "They're sorry because I didn't do what they expected me to do." A few seconds of silence elapsed. Then she responded again. "They are just terrified. They don't know what they will do without you. They said they had been thinking about everything. Can't you forgive them just once?" "Forgive them?" I typed, nearly furious. "You have got to be kidding me. I've been paying their rent for a full year. Taking care of their bills like a bank. They didn't even consider including me in their small family trip. Now that they're in a mess, I'm meant to swoop in and save them again?" "I'm finished, Jamie." The response was prompt. "Please. They apologize, Lucas. They did not intend to hurt you. Mom stated she was mistaken. I know you don't believe it, but she truly feels horrible." I took a deep breath and brushed my fingers through my hair. Part of me wanted to confront her for defending them. However, a part of me wanted to end the situation. It wasn't worth the effort anymore. "I don't care what they say anymore," I said. "I'm finished. They can figure it out on their own. I have been there for them more than anyone else. And I am not doing it anymore." I gazed at my phone screen for a time, feeling the rage rise again. But this time, I was more in charge. The ache, the frustration, it was all settling in my stomach like a cold rock. Jamie did not text back for a long time. I assumed that was all. Then came the call. It was my mother. I let it ring out. I was not interested in what she had to say. A few minutes later, she called again. I responded quickly to get it out of the way. "Lucas," she said softly, nearly trembling. I didn't mean for it to go like this." I remained mute, allowing her to stew in the unpleasantness. Finally, she ended the stillness. "You are correct. We have been awful to you. I've treated you horribly. I expected you to always take care of things. But now I realize how wrong I was. You don't owe us anything, Lucas. You never have." It was everything I had ever hoped to hear. However, it no longer provided any satisfaction. "No," I replied firmly. "I don't owe you anything." There was a pause. My mom then took a deep breath. "We're sorry," she reiterated. "We never wanted to hurt you." On the other end, I could faintly hear her crying. But I didn't feel any pity. Not anymore. I had given them everything, and this is how they compensated me. "I've already made my decision," I informed her. "I'm finished. And if you truly apologize, you will leave me alone." The line became quiet. Then, as I was ready to hang up, she whispered, "Please, Lucas. Don't leave us. Don't turn your back on your family." I shook my head, despite the fact that she could not see me. "I have already turned my back on you. You just didn't notice until it was too late." And with that, I ended the call. I assumed that would be the end of it. However, a few hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a voicemail from my father. "Lucas, you've passed a line. You're not only cutting us off, you're ruining our family. Do you think this is over? It isn't. I am going to make sure you regret this. You'll be sorry, just wait." I stared at the phone. I am trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to listen to it repeatedly, savoring the wrath in his voice. But I did not. I removed it. It wasn't worth the time anymore. And I knew what was next, the call I'd been waiting for. The one who would ultimately wrap up this story for good. It didn't come from my parents, however. It came from my brother. And when I picked up, his first words sent shivers down my spine. "Lucas, you should be careful. This is bigger than you realize. They are plotting something. Something you wouldn't expect." I froze. I'm not sure what he meant, but the tone in my brother's voice made my stomach turn. His comments had a hushed, uncanny edge. And it seemed like he was concealing something. I leaned back in my chair, attempting to digest everything that had occurred. The calls, guilt trips, and accusations, all of it. "What do you mean by bigger than I think?" I inquired, my voice firm amidst the maelstrom in my thoughts. He hesitated before responding. When he spoke again, I could detect nervousness in his voice. "Look, I know things have been bad between us. I understand that. But it's not just about the money anymore. It's all about control. They won't let this go. They'll make you pay for cutting them off." I felt the words like a punch in the gut. What do you mean by pay? What exactly are their plans? My thoughts raced. But I wasn't ready to let dread take over again. "I don't know everything," he admitted promptly. "But I've witnessed how they've behaved behind closed doors. It's as if they're attempting to coerce the rest of the family into turning against you. I believe they are preparing something. Something huge. And if you don't look out, they'll turn everyone against you." I rubbed my temples, feeling the weight of his words sink into my chest like a big boulder. Was I ready for what was coming? Was this merely a last-ditch manipulative attempt? Was there anything else going on? "Thanks for the heads up," I finally replied, my voice icy and distant. "But I have already made a decision. They've crossed all the lines. I'm finished." I hung up without saying another thing. That's when I realized something. It wasn't only about money anymore. It was not a question of whether I had been generous enough. No, it was about something deeper. Something poisonous. And I knew I had to cut all ties before I ended up like them, bitter, entitled, suffocating under my own guilt. The following day, the storm struck. I was sitting on my couch when I noticed the first message. It was a group SMS from my parents, sister and brother. It was the last thing I had ever imagined. "We should talk. This family is disintegrating, and we need you to fix it. This isn't all about money, Lucas. We are seeking your assistance. Please return home and be the man you were." I stared at the screen. My thumb is lingering above the response button. But I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I sat there, staring at the letter with incredulity. This was it. Their final attempt to bring me back into the fold. But I was not going to fall for it. Not this time. So I did what I promised myself. I walked away. Completely. I blocked all of them on my phone. I unfriended them on social media. No messages, no calls, no method to contact me. A few days passed in silence. Then, I received an unexpected visit. At my flat door. I opened it to see my parents standing there, looking like two broken individuals. Their faces were paler. Their eyes are red and swollen. For a minute, they didn't resemble the people who had raised me. They appeared to have been defeated. A part of me wondered. Had they really changed? "Lucas, please listen to us," my mother begged, barely a whisper. "We apologize. We were mistaken. We do not want to lose you. The situation has escalated beyond reasonable limits. We just want our family back." I did not say anything. I just stood there and stared at them, allowing the silence to grow in the room. My father spoke next, his voice weak. "Please don't do this, son, we need you. You are the only one who can fix this." That's when I understood I was done. Completely finished? They had been manipulating me for years. Used me as a safety net when things went bad. Then they treated me as if I didn't matter when they believed I was no longer useful. However, they were now in a dire situation. Desperate enough to beg. Desperate enough to try to twist the issue such that I felt guilty. But I didn't have anything. There's nothing left to give them. There's no more money. No more favors. No more emotional support. I'd been their lifeline for far too long, and now, I was walking away. For good. "No," I replied firmly. "You have got enough opportunities. I gave you everything. So this is how you repay me?" I shake my head. I'm finished. This is my final answer. I could see their faces fall. The weight of their own acts has now settled in. It felt odd. But it was also freeing. For the first time in years, I wasn't consumed by their turmoil. I did not owe them anything. They turned to depart. However, not before my father muttered, "You'll regret this." But I didn't care. I did not feel any remorse. There is no guilt. I had finally gained control of my life. And I was determined to keep my peace, from here on out. Several weeks passed. I haven't heard from them. I hadn't heard from anyone else either. My phone was quiet. And for the first time in ages, I felt happy. Free even. Then came the final blow. An email. It came from my sister. And this time, she was the one who apologized. She stated that she understood why I had done what I did. I deserved better. And that the family was breaking apart. She stated if I didn't return, things would never be the same again. She implored me to reconsider. I didn't even read the rest. I've simply erased it. That marked the end of it. I'd won. My family, what remained of it, was left to pick up the pieces. I'm not sure what the future holds. But I understand this. I will not be looking back. What are your thoughts? Should I have tried a different approach? Or did I make the correct choice? Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.